All right, so what is it that makes the art of the corner forward so special? We've got two of the greatest exponents of it in studio with us a little bit later on to explain to us. Colm Cooper is going to talk to us a little bit about what he taught James in the brief period of time that their careers overlapped. That's all coming up for you a little bit later on as well. And I'm delighted to say we have a fully signed up member of the Meath Hill football mafia with us this morning. Morning, Donnchadh Boyle, how are you?
Great, Jared. Thanks very much for having me.
So Tommy's been banging on about how amazing he is at football. Is he any good?
He's all right. He's all right. Yeah, he's our full forward at the minute, which makes him a bigger, stronger, faster, better version of me 5 years ago. So Tommy and the lads put in a great year last year. He may have mentioned once or twice we won a junior championship, which most people might say, well, that doesn't mean much, but I think it's the third one we've ever won. So
I know it means a lot. I think that's the glory of it, is that you can see exactly what it means and why clubs matter in the lower tiers and why a tiered system actually works despite the backlash against it in recent days. Yeah,
and maybe we might get into that later on, but yeah, you have your levels, and if glory is rare when it comes around, it's sweet regardless of what level it is. And we really celebrate it now. We do a great time, and you know what? It's breathed new life into. It's a cliche, but it's breathed life into the club, to the area. There's people around the place now who are drawn to it that maybe wouldn't have been before, and we're a very small place anyway, so every extra number we get is great. Yeah.
So what was your own role in the success last year?
I went... so I probably playing since 2000, and then last year I took a step back. I was getting a lot of injuries. The year before we'd been so bad, we were beating out the gap in the final group game, and I says, you know what, I'm just going to play a bit of reserve this year. And I stood back. I didn't even tug out so much for the A team, and the lads won the championship.
Happy days. So now this year you're back and making the team.
Well, I was getting married at the start of the year, so I said, right, I need to get fit. I need to do a little bit of training. So somehow I'm after getting a run of more or less injury free for about for 4 or 5 months now, and I'm there most of the time now again at 34. And you know what, that's probably going back to the same thing. You're probably drawn back to it when you're winning things, and just on a subconscious level you're probably thinking, geez, this is great. And there is great atmosphere around the place at the minute. It's great to be a part of it.
Can I ask you, because obviously whenever we cover club stories, Tommy is like unbelievably passionate about it. Not that he doesn't like the rest of the work that we do, but sometimes like, oh, I have to do this shit story again. No more talking about Joey Carbery. It's generally his attitude and stuff. But when it comes to club football, he's like, unbelievably, we have to do this. It is unbelievably important. Does that inform your work, the fact that you actually continue to play club football?
I would always keep an eye out for the clubs. Yeah, I would have sympathy towards them, and you know, because they are getting squeezed more and more. And the county game is great. I love it as well. But there's sort of maybe an honesty at club level, and that you don't really get to see at county level anymore. It's definitely there, but it's hidden beyond so many layers of other things. Yeah. So yeah, look, I think as well as you get older, you start to realise that there's a lot more football behind you than ahead of you. So you're just drinking every moment, and it's great to be a part of it again at the minute.
Yeah, okay. We are obviously also pretty proud of this piece of work that we're doing at the moment. Isa Nacewa has retired. Brian O'Driscoll has got the very first interview with him, and it looks like it is going to be a doozy.
Yep, so I would never have told anyone this, but this massive satisfaction in knowing that we had to go to real dark places.
The radio version of that went out last night, but the full video will be available a little bit later on all of our social channels, so make sure you stay tuned and subscribe to Off the Ball on Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube as well, obviously. Click the button there to make sure you subscribe to it. Going to bring you through the sports pages now, bring you a little bit more of BOD meeting Isa. We have the Gooch James Rodriguez, O'Donoghue access a little bit later on about the peculiarities of corner forward play and the evolution of the role of the corner forward, and whether or not maybe James O'Donoghue might have a future at 11. That's a question that we can ask Colm Cooper specifically. We'll play some James McCarthy a little bit later on. We get into the meat and drink of why Meath and Kildare have become so bad and just who has it worst, but we'll bring you to the newspapers now.
OTB AM.
In association with Air. Get Air Sport free with Air Broadband.
Yeah, so we're going to start with the Irish Independent this morning, and that is 17 counties in training camp probe, and they also have the story about John O'Shea as the personality to make it as a manager. That's Keith Andrews, who was yesterday speaking about a range of things and has made the back page of many of the newspapers. This training camp issue, it's a Martin Brownie story. 17 counties, which is more than half, couldn't give a shite about the rules.
Yeah, well, obviously, until Congress last year, there was a little bit of a loophole there in that there was really no punishment for anyone who was caught breaking that. Now, to change that over the autumn, and you're meant to lose a home game in the league the following year. So there's 17 counties under investigation between challenge games and training camps, and like we've heard all the lovely explanations from the fellas who've been rolled out over the last couple of weeks. So
Lee Chin's was my favourite.
Yeah.
So the Wexford hurlers, I think, did they go to Portugal? They did, yeah. Wexford joint captain Lee Chin said a trip to Portugal was organised by the players to have a bit of fun in each other's company. What were they doing?
Well, whatever they're doing, they definitely weren't hurling or training. There was no physical exercise whatsoever.
Yeah.
So, look, the rule is probably the rule is there to protect, I suppose, Club Month, and that's a lovely idea. But if it can't be enforced and it's going to be ignored on this scale as it seems to be, or at least challenged, you'd have to wonder what the point of it is.
What is the rule?
The rule, it's 10 days before championship. You can't have a training camp. So obviously April and May and the early part of May was set aside for the clubs. And in this situation, I suppose every county approached April differently. Some didn't have a championship at all. So in some of these scenarios, they probably weren't interfering with a whole lot of club activity anyway. But that's not what's written down in black and white. But look, the GAA rulebook is an absolute minefield. So if you can interpret that in a certain way to suit your own agenda, then that's what people will do. Challenge
games are also banned, except on Mondays, Tuesdays and
Wednesdays. Yeah. I don't really get. Again, I presume that's something to do with club fixtures, right. So that the couple of days beforehand are clear, and then clubs have access to their players.
And like the only way that these rules work is if they're properly enforced, and if they're properly enforced, then there's going to be like loads of league matches at neutral grounds last year. It's like we're taking a home game from you and I'm taking a home game from you. You're supposed to play
each other. Yeah. We're doing them croker.
Before sparse crowds would be the only thing. Right, so quickly, the Irish Daily Mail, the back page headline here is "I will be back." This is a great story. There's loads of exclusives with Tom Parsons across the newspapers today. They all have the same exclusive. It's an off-the-ball story, by the way. I'm being sarcastic. Parsons vows to return after horror injury. This is his interview last night with Joe on Off the Ball. And then Lampard in at Derby as Spurs get more time. This is the news that Frank Lampard has agreed to become the new Derby County manager. Big knock-on impact on BT. So Lampard is going to Derby, and they're losing Stephen Gerrard to Rangers. So big money transfer apparently in the works for
your name in the mix?
Thierry Henry and Roy Keane. They were the ones that they're naming. And I think that Sky would probably drive Thierry Henry to BT if they thought that they could get out of the $4 million a year contract that they have with Thierry Henry.
He's not that bad, is he?
Is he $4 million a year good?
Well, like at that level, like what is $2 million a year worth it? You know what I mean? When you're talking that sort of money, like where do you start and finish?
Yeah, $2 million, you get two of them. You get two million for $4 million.
Like, I'm sure like Roy wouldn't come for a song either, would he?
No, but I'd say Roy would probably go for $1 million.
Would he?
It's nice money. You know? I mean, if I was Roy, would you take $1 million? $1.5 million. Thierry's getting 4, not anymore.
Yeah,
okay, 2.
It's serious money. It's like punditry is obviously such a big thing now.
Yeah,
huge.
Especially when so many of the games are not great.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. We're oversubscribed at the minute, aren't we? Oversubscribed in sport in general.
Except GAA early in the season.
Except the GAA, but that is changing as well apparently, because Meath and Tyrone are on the telly now on Saturday week.
Yeah, which I'd say Meath people are delighted about. Like, you get the opportunity to watch this. All right, so the Times Ireland, O'Neill has got his tactics badly wrong. This is Keith Andrews. It's not rocket science, but a plan is required for our performance to be better against the US. I'm not here coming up with some genius plan. I could see in the France game the options weren't there when players wanted to pass the ball, he says. So Keith Andrews has been fairly outspoken in his criticism of the quality of football that we've seen under Martin O'Neill. And
is this a new thing, is it?
Continuing with that.
Because have we not always kind of struggled to score and hope for, you know, I can't claim to be the world's biggest football fan, but have we not always sort of been a bit of a hit and hope thing? We've never kept it and played around the corner and, you know, little neat triangles and that sort of stuff, have we?
Well, when we had Roy Keane and Damien Duff, like there was a period of time around from 2000 to the end of the World Cup qualifying campaign, we tried to keep the ball. Because Keane would get the ball, give it and get it and give it and get it and give it, and it was like, oh, but that's like a one-man tactic. I don't think that Mick McCarthy necessarily would have.
Didn't we play Damien Duff as a striker for a while as well? Didn't we? You know what I mean? So we're like, it's square pegs.
Yeah. And then they also have the story that James O'Donoghue is set to return. He seems to be fit now, having kind of not been fit for most of the league campaign.
He's been really unlucky, hasn't he? You know, been shoulder injuries and different things like that. And he was. I remember last year in Munster, he was doing quite well, and then he picked up a knock. Maybe it was the Clare game, or around that time anyway. And like, he's a brilliant footballer. He's one everyone wants to see fully fit, and hopefully we get to see that this summer.
Yeah, because if you look, I was saying this the other day to Owen. It's a huge if, but if you have him fully fit for the year, it kind of transforms Kerry's fortunes a bit, because him and Gainey, and now you've got Clifford and O'Donoghue.
Yeah.
Like, suddenly that's an unbelievable forward line.
Yeah.
But if he's not fit, then the fall off to who else is going to replace him isn't great.
Yeah, Sean O'Shea obviously too. He had a big league, probably the biggest league campaign, certainly early in the first couple of rounds of all the young Kerry guys we were talking about. But I think that's something we might get into a little bit later on. But there's a lot of pieces of the jigsaw to fit there for Kerry.
The Irish Times, Gavin Cumsky has the story that Joe Schmidt is set to give his views on the Carbery conundrum. There is supposed to be some press today with Joe Schmidt, where of course he's going to be asked about his role in the longest transfer saga in Irish rugby history at this stage. Obviously, Carbery's already turned down the 12-month loan to Ulster. Perhaps now, having met with Munster, that looks most likely. Gavin Cumsky is also reporting some of the comments that Paul O'Connell made yesterday, which I didn't get to in the Irish Examiner. I'm not a massive fan of players moving around the provinces, O'Connell said. I think it's just a short-term fix for Munster if players come here. We have to put in a production system underneath from the club game and from the schools game to match other provinces. Maybe we won't ever be as good as Leinster, but we need to try something. And then he goes on to talk about the out half, saying it is a position where we've struggled, but Munster just need to find someone that can play at a really consistent level. When Paul O'Connell is coming out and saying it's not good that players are coming here from other provinces, you have to listen to that, right?
Yeah, and like, there's logic there. Ideally, like, Munster would be producing enough of their own to sustain themselves and not have to rely on Leinster, whose production line just seems to be working overtime at the minute. But look, I think that could work for everyone. Like, he's obviously very talented. They want to keep him in the Irish system. They want to keep him available to Joe Schmidt down the line. So, you know, Munster would look like the obvious fit. And like we've seen, it's worked with a few guys before. Didn't Andrew Conway start out at Leinster? So
yeah, and it worked out really well for Conway.
And a couple of others as well.
It took him a little while to get up to what Munster exactly needed him to do.
Felix Jones was another one when he was there. He came down as well, didn't he?
Yeah. It's great. I think that O'Connell is coming out and saying the type of stuff, though. He doesn't feel like he has to be part of the system and go, well, if Joe Schmidt wants it, it has to be the right thing to do. It's like, no, actually, I don't think players should be transferred. Yeah. We need to get our house in order.
It's a hard line to walk, but isn't it, in fairness? Like, if you're Schmidt or David Nucifora, you can understand why they're in a bit of a bind there.
And then there's match reports, obviously, from the Ireland Under-20s World Cup performance against France. For a long time, it looked like we were going to skin France. We're 12 points up at one stage, and then Emile Entemac's son ran riot from number 10. He got a proper moustache and he looks like a man alongside everybody. He's also sensationally gifted, like low centre of gravity, tall, strong. I flicked it on as soon as Neil Tracy was tweeting, going, "Oh, this is looking really good for us." I was like, "Oh, flick on." 5 minutes later, we were trailing and pretty much out of it. But the big news, obviously, was Trevor Brennan's son Daniel speaking afterwards. Air Sport carried this last night and it went viral pretty quick.
You know, congratulations on the win. I mean, what was it about playing at home and getting that?
So we're happy to play at home. It's a home World Cup, so we were very motivated. I think we had a really bad start to the game, but we got back in second half, so we're happy we got the win, you know. That's what we came here for. So now we have two more games anyway coming up, so that's going to be important.
What was said at half-time to get you guys really rolling?
The Irish team were very aggressive. They came in very aggressive, so I think we weren't expecting that. So I think we just got all the boys together, got us pumped up at half-time, so everyone was on track on second half.
Must be happy as a forward when you see those backs flowing and scoring tries like that.
Yeah, it's better. It's better when it goes that way than when we're moving backwards.
But against this Irish team, you always knew it was going to be tough first up, didn't you?
Yeah, we always knew it was going to be tough. We played against them. We played against them 3 times in the last 12 months. It's always been a tough game. So yeah, we knew it was going to be a tough game, but they played us where we weren't good today, so they done well.
And always nice to start the tournament off with a win, eh?
Yeah, it is. It is. Just hope we get wins in the next games now.
Congratulations. Good luck for the next one, eh?
Yeah, cheers. Thank you very much.
An adopted friend.
There you go.
I'm not sure that your man had no idea
of
his lineage at all, had he?
No.
It's a
usual French name and not a very French accent. Yeah, that was a long exchange you went on that
Kiwi
summer.
project player or something like that.
I said this before, and everybody keeps criticising me for it. But he's French now. He considers himself French. Fair enough. But like, make him a big offer. Make him the opportunity. Give him the opportunity, and say, look, we think he should be part of the Irish system. When you consider that we're flying in teenagers from South Africa to join the Munster Academy, why wouldn't we like actually make a full-time contract offer and say, I know that you've grown up in Toulouse and they've looked after you and everything, but like, come on, Daniel, come and allow Irish rugby to atone for the sin of letting your father leave.
Well, I think Trevor spoke about that maybe at one of your road shows, that he made the point that, look, France has given them an education and life and all that, and that they should honour that by playing for France. And I can understand that logic. Like, as well as that, like, you don't really know like what he's coming into here. Like, the amount of talent in Ireland at the minute seems to be just growing by the year.
Yeah.
So is he better off where he is, maybe, in that French system?
Maybe. I mean, maybe he is. Just it's going to sicken us when he kills us at senior level at some point in the Six Nations. You're like, oh, Jesus Christ, look at this. You know, did we make every effort?
It'll give us something to talk about.
Definitely. Oh, don't worry about that. I should point out we got 3 pairs of tickets to Ireland against USA on Saturday night in the Aviva Stadium to give away. Just leave a comment for us here on OTB AM to be in with the draw and to be with a chance of winning the draw, and we'll give you that winner a little bit later on. The Examiner from front cover this morning is Eamon Fitzmaurice pointing to the future. Reaching out, Fitzmaurice admits Kerry must build connection with fans. I was thinking about this when I saw this cover today. Basically, the front page story most this week has been about the Kerry footballers, and it's in advance of a game against Clare, so there's not a whole heap by way of match preview. And we talk constantly about the pressure and the spotlight the Dublin footballers are under, but if you are a Kerry footballer, your paper is the Examiner, because everybody around that reads that, and obviously the Kerry man, and it's pretty much wall-to-wall coverage of the Kerry footballers. So there's the same sense of being spoken about and the same sense of pressure. Also, every columnist in every national newspaper has a Kerry columnist who was once a teammate of the current manager.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think the manager quite well. So, like, Eamon Fitzmaurice did a press conference, I think it was last Saturday afternoon, and that is the extent of the access that's been had. Bar, of course, you mentioned former players and stuff like that, but that Mikey Sheehy did something at the Munster Championship launch. So they haven't been everywhere, like, but Kerry will always be talked about regardless whether they make themselves available or not.
Yeah.
But I do think they do a pretty good job of managing that and isolating themselves, yeah. But like, we haven't heard a jot from Kerry since the last round of the league, since the loss to Tyrone, wasn't it, Noma? Excuse me. So I think they're we don't really know. That's one of Fitzmaurice's quotes. We actually don't really know where they are at the moment. Would
you, if you were involved in an inter-county team, would you be of the mind to get out and control the narrative and do as much media as possible, yeah. Or would you be I'm going to do one piece and that's it, and you can all?
Well, you can't make it go away. It's going to exist. So the only thing you can do is trying to control the thing to some extent. So this example has been referenced before, but Pat Gilroy, when he took over, he brought us up to St. Clair's for 8 o'clock in the morning press conferences, which is very early for media types. And he would be asked about things. He'd be asked about the team and he'd say very little, but he'd also then be asked about championship structures and player welfare. And he'd have a big, long monologue and he'd be quite strong on it. And then all of a sudden, the papers are filled with Gilroy calls for change to Leinster Championship, and you know, there all of a sudden, whatever you're doing, you're not talking about his team.
Yeah.
And that was at a time too when Dublin were seen to be vulnerable to the pressures that existed within the media, which seems ridiculous now.
They were chokers up until they actually got over the line. Eventually, they were labelled chokers.
They were, yeah, but that was probably harsh as well. They probably just weren't that good. Yeah. Well, weren't quite good enough anyway. Like the current team, like I think you could write anything about them. You could dedicate column inches after column inches to them, and they'd still steamroll over most teams.
Yeah, and probably be capable of ignoring most of it.
Yeah, and I think like modern day players are better equipped at that as well. Like it's quite amazing that sports psychology and the GAA is still hung up around, you know, he said this in the paper, or he said that on radio. You know, it's you know, we've got very sophisticated in loads of ways, but that still seems to be the.
I did hear through the grapevine that the Dubs are pissed off that they're not getting the recognition that they deserve.
I read that as well. Was it Kieran Whelan?
Was it?
Yeah.
The individual awards didn't go.
I don't understand. Like every conversation I have around Dublin football is whether they're the greatest team of all time or the second greatest team of all time. You know, and
yet those Mayo lads have taken the last 2 Player of the Year awards.
But that's voted for by the players. So, you know,
take it out on the opposition.
Yeah, well. I can understand why they might feel hard done by, but like I can also see the case for Andy Moore last year. You know, it's not a conspiracy, put it that way.
Yeah. Although I suppose when you're looking for an edge, or you're trying to get people back to...
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you're trying to get back to that pitch, you will take on anything. I suppose going back to the Jim Connolly incident last year and the fallout with RT and all that, that smacked a little bit of somebody trying to just say galvanise the dressing room.
Yeah, as opposed to it being a true belief that his constitutional right had been impugned somewhere along the way. What newspapers have you got for us?
We're starting here with the Herald. So it's United's bail boost. So that's about United's pursuit of Gareth Bale, and it also says that because Lewandowski's looking to push through a move to Real Madrid, that's more likely to happen. And then at the top here, you've a race at the bottom. I think we're going to talk about that a little bit later on.
You do it now if you want, actually. So this is something that
it's basically that Offaly in Dublin this weekend is a relegation playoff as it stands, unless something changed. Now there has been talk that this may be a special congress to change. There's little rumblings about that, nothing confirmed yet, but essentially that people seem to have woken up in the last couple of weeks that somebody's going to be relegated out of Leinster, which is surprising considering the decision was made in October and November of last year.
So hang on, what would a special congress do? Reverse the decision?
That remains to be seen, but they may let this year's Joe McDonagh winners into, which looks like it'd be Antrim, say, or maybe Westmeath, let them into Leinster next year, and have no relegation.
So there'll be an extra team?
Yeah. And there's a precedent for this as well. Okay. So
that's not the worst idea of all time, is it?
It's not the worst idea of all time, but why do we need this retrospective sort of, like, we were fully aware of this. Yeah. So like people are just turning around now and saying, like, if Offaly get relegated and they lose this weekend, it's a disaster. And
can I make one case for people waking up to it now, is that everybody assumed that Offaly would be as bad as they have been in previous years. I remember we did a game, Offaly against Cork scored 11 something against them. Like the scoreboard actually ran out of enough space to put up the 11 goals. And then Offaly put together a reasonable league campaign and put together good championship performances for the first 2 games out. Okay, so the last one was a bit of a disaster. And so now they're thinking, how do we get Offaly hurling back to a level where there is another team in Leinster who are credible contenders, or at least capable of winning their home games maybe? It's not going to happen if they get relegated. Is that why people have suddenly started to think?
I think, I think there's always, within hurling in particular, there's always been a desire to protect the sort of established few, or the established 10 or 12, whatever it might be. So in this scenario, you're looking at Offaly playing, possibly if they lose this weekend, playing Joe McDonagh next year. And I don't think there'll be the same level of outcry if, let's say, Carlow were up and they dropped out of the Liam McCarthy next year. It's simply based on tradition. But if that's the level the team are at, for the record, I don't think there should be relegation. But if we knew this when the thing came in, if that's the level the bottom team in Leinster are at, you have to also give the Joe McDonagh team something to play for. So you can't just protect the 5 Leinster teams indefinitely. So
the way this would be is effectively the fudge would be to protect the current status quo, bring a team up who everybody assumes will be the team that comes down, and then they just yo-yo.
So next year you have, let's say, Antrim come up and down, and they go back down next year. There won't be the outcry next year if Antrim go back down.
And then Carlow, and then Antrim again. And
because Antrim didn't win the All-Ireland 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So look, it's just Congress decision making. Like, I don't, like, we've seen a lot of strange things at Congress, but to make a decision, a special Congress was called to make these changes to Championship, and now all of a sudden, 3 games into it, we're saying, listen lads, this isn't a great idea. Yeah,
but maybe it's not the worst idea. It's hard to know unless they actually try it. See, like, what are the long-term repercussions for Offaly if they go down? Does it force them to get their house in order? Now,
well, that's probably a question for Offaly,
and the Offaly County Board haven't covered themselves in glory in recent years in terms of their communication, their transparency, their ability to think long term.
Yeah, and obviously we had the issue with the footballers there recently as well, but ideally to be a way to keep Offaly in the top tier, but I just think someone has to make the case for the Antrims, the Carlows and the Westmeaths as well. If you're trying to develop them there, you have to give them something. So if you give Westmeath a chance to go into Leinster next year, where look, they'll find it really tough, but are they better off having Kilkenny and Galway and Mullingar next year than having, Meath and Carlow? That's a question to be answered, but it's a fair question.
Yeah. Okay, what's next?
We're in the Mirror next. This is Mourinho and Lukaku falling out with each other over the FA Cup final, where Mourinho said he wouldn't play. Lukaku's basically hit back and said that he was told not to play, I think is essentially the point he was making. It was Jose who made the decision. There's off the
Parsons
ball
story,
world exclusive.
Yeah.
Parsons, Hales first aid, and then there's the Lewandowski stuff again, where he says Lewandowski's going to Chelsea, or Chelsea are chasing him there. So that's a little bit different from what was on the back of the Herald. Then we're moving on to the star, Tom Parsons.
Another Tom Parsons.
And the same thing again with Lukaku. And after that, Lewandowski. Yeah, so a lot of the same stuff there. Declan Rice as well has been tipped to follow in the footsteps of retiring John O'Shea, becoming a leader in the dressing room there. They're obviously playing tomorrow night, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, and then
Saturday. It feels like a Friday, but unfortunately it's not. It's only Thursday.
And then that's a good headline. He could be a raving lunatic at home. This is Roy Keane talking about John O'Shea. Saying that he could be secretly a raving lunatic away from football. And then after that, there is
Tom Parsons. There you go. Well, Tom.
So that's it.
If you want that full Tom Parsons interview, you can get it on the podcast. Just subscribe to our GAA podcasts. Pardon me. Now, we do have a special video on the way. Brian O'Driscoll has been chatting with Isa Nacewa just days after his final game for Leinster. Here's a taster.
And so what position did you think you were coming to Leinster? So you look at, at a Wikipedia page, and it's utility back. So you've played everywhere across the back line. You even scored a try from 9 when you went in, when Luke McGrath, was it last season, got sin binned? Got sin bin, and you picked and jammed through the guts, and a score with the 9 jersey on your back. What did you see yourself coming as? A utility back, or as a second 10, or someone that was going to plug holes, or how did you see yourself fitting in the squad?
I think I was coming here to play out half.
What's your favourite position?
Now?
Yeah.
12.
If you were 12.
12 now.
Why?
Because I'm far more slower. You move, the numbers get smaller.
Is there a security to 12?
100%.
Did you feel vulnerable the last couple of years out on the wings?
100%. 100%. When you don't.
When did that set in?
So that's probably started to set in after the first season here, and the youth coming through, when you had Rory O'Loughlin, Adam Byrne, Jordan Lama, James Lowe now. When they're consistently running far faster than you, and you see those stats, those thoughts creep into your head.
Yeah, but you back your rugby intellect, right, of being able to read the situation. Hard in.
Cut down the angle.
We aren't playing any drift.
No, I had to play smarter.
The defensive system this year that's been incorporated absolutely worked to your benefit.
I was an absolute driver of the system. Wingers play high, get up in the space, cut down their time. So it suited me far more when my time's out on the wing.
A wide-ranging chat between the two lads. There's obviously been a lot of debate about what happened at half-time in the Champions Cup final in 2011 against Northampton. Here's Isa's take on what was said in the dressing room that day.
Everyone's got a different take on it.
So coming in from the changing room, it really felt like we hadn't played. And I remember him missing the kick as we came in off the sideline. And I genuinely probably couldn't remember the score. I just knew that hell, we're miles behind. From my point of view, as Johnny started talking about Liverpool,
yeah,
I'm sort of sitting there scratching my head going, what did Liverpool do? I have no idea. I still don't know to this day what he's talking about.
You weren't watching the Champions League final in 2005, no?
I had no idea what he was talking about. It must have, but it sounded good. So I was just sort of sitting there nodding my head going, okay, right, we've got to go out and play. And yeah, jeepers, Shane Jennings come on, made a big difference. All of a sudden the scrum starts going forward at a huge rate of knots, and we just went up and played. I remember actually Stuart Lancaster's used quite a bit of that footage in the last year about the style of play we were playing, and I look back saying, well, there wasn't too much structure to it, but we were just sort of running hard and hitting rucks, and the next thing you know, we just started scoring points.
And then Johnny goes and scores 28 points himself. So whatever you say at halftime, back it up with your actions, which is the most impressive aspect.
Yeah, it is impressive. When he talks, he just goes out there and goes into Johnny's version of beast mode and just takes over. And it was phenomenal. I've seen it so many times now, though. It wasn't just a one-off. But he really does just say, "Come on, boys, follow me," and jeepers, off we went.
Yeah, the sun shining on Brian O'Driscoll and Isa Nacewa. You can watch the whole video on youtube.com/offtheball a little bit later on. We'll send out notifications when that's ready. The radio piece went out last night. If you want to listen to the podcast, so that you can get it on our rugby section on whatever podcast player you use. Now, we do have a brilliant show coming up for you live next week in full glorious Technicolor from Vicar Street. It's the Off the Ball Euro 88 Roadshow on Thursday the 7th of June. John Giles, Ronnie Whelan, Kevin Moran and Ray Houghton. You can get tickets at offtheball.com/events, and we have a competition running at the moment on our social channels as well. So last night, obviously, Tom Parsons was speaking with Joe, as you've no doubt gleaned from the back pages of the newspapers. Brilliant interview. Just one of those people who automatically wins you over with the way he speaks about things, and also his own ability to describe exactly what happened. So here he is talking about the injury that happened against Galway.
I just remember getting over, I think it was the young Galway player, Owen Kern, and I just was tackling him, and I was leaning over him, and he was kind of bent. I just remember my leg being in trouble. I just remember being in trouble and trying to get that leg out, and then the next time his weight shifted one way, my weight shifted the other way, and I was flat on my back and got a glimpse of what was on the floor, so that was tough. So I do remember it.
When you say a glimpse, that suggests you looked down, saw the picture and looked quickly the hell away again.
I looked down, and within an absolute credit to my teammate Aidan O'Shea, within seconds he had his paw on my forehead and pushed my head back and said, "Tom, relax, don't look at it." And I just seen him waving in the medical team. So I'm so blessed, Joe, that I'm sure these injuries have happened to people in car accidents or bike accidents, and it's a lonely place, but I had such a good medical team around me with, my team doctor and my team physio and my wife and everyone in the hospital who were so professional and had this calming presence. Because it's one thing pain, and it's one thing having an injury in front of you that looks horrific.
Yes.
But if you see panic in people's eyes, and you see panic in your teammate or in your doctor or even your wife, or your partner or your family, that will just make things a whole lot worse.
Yeah, it's contagious.
It's contagious, exactly. And I never felt that, and just absolute massive credit to how professional everybody was.
Yeah, so that's Tom Parsons going into the chapter and verse last night with Joe about the injury that he suffered. Apart from the actual fact of the injury itself, not having Tom Parsons around for Mayo is a critical blow, because Parsons had emerged over the last couple of seasons as somebody who was really filling into the full peak of his abilities, not just his physical ability, but also kind of understanding the ebb and flow of a game, and was unbelievably important to that team.
He was, yeah, and the other thing is too, we always talk about the depth of Mayo maybe being the one thing that lets them down a little bit, that when Dublin looked at their bench, or maybe even Kerry now at the moment, when Mayo looked at them, there wasn't the same quality there, and that this immediately means you have to go a little bit deeper into those reserves, which is not ideal for them. But just a word on him himself, he's absolutely earned his inter-county career. He was let go by, I think it was James Horn, and went to work in Wales for a while, and then somebody he got a call back a couple of years or maybe 18 months after that, and was flying over and back to get in with Mayo at the start, and then he decided that it was going well for him, and he moved back home. So it hasn't been an easy inter-county career for him.
Even up to the end of last season, he was in and out of the team, but maybe 2 years ago. And then go on.
Last season, I thought he played some of his best football that I've seen him play anyway with Mayo. He was really influential. He had a really good replay, I think, against Kerry the second day. So as you say, really coming into his own in terms of midfield play, and had added a little bit more. He looked to have his shooting seemed to have improved a lot as well, and maybe that was something he worked on. Maybe that's something that came just with age and a bit of calmness and maturity. But he was a really important player for them. So
where are Mayo now? The qualifier route, and we had Rochford in this week, and just kind of going through last year, we took it as a fait accompli that they were going to make it through all those games, and we just trusted that they would find a way against Derry. And Derry were Camlogian last year, and they still had a free at the end of the game to win it. That Roscommon team, we still have yet to find out what the truth about that Roscommon team is. And in between then, there were a couple of games where you were thinking, this isn't going to go for
Yeah, I was at the Clare
game.
game last year, and the Clare gave them the fill of it, and Cork brought them to extra time too, and Mayo seemed to have won that game maybe twice in normal time and then let them back into it. I still think that Mayo are better than 90% of the teams out there, and I expect them to be in the Super 8s. I don't see I don't see why the Galway result would have a massive bearing on that in terms of their status as a top 8 team. They were down to 14 men for most of the game. Jim O'Connor went early, and it was like a goal in the third minute of injury time that finally knocked them out. So, you know, they did perform to a pretty good level, and that was against one of the best teams in the country. So I still think they have a lot more in them than anyone they might meet over certainly the first round or two. Now, Tyrone are the obvious danger, but if they can avoid them and they can take a couple of games to get on their feet, I still think we'll be talking about them in the end of July.
You'd probably still make them favourites to beat Tyrone, would you?
Well, that's the other thing, like predicting what the Mayo footballers will do on a given day. Like over the course of a season, you know, you can say that, yeah, they will reach the heights, but on a given day, they're capable of absolutely anything.
Yeah.
And I mean that positively and negatively. Like, they could beat Dublin, and at the same time they could lose to Derry, who themselves would. So that, like, somewhere in between. But Mayo have beaten everyone you expect them to beat consistently over and over again. So until they lose a game in the championship,
sometimes it just takes them a replay to do it.
Sometimes, yeah, but they always find a way against everyone bar Dublin, in fairness to them. So they always find a way to win the games that they're supposed to win. And until they don't win that match, I think they deserve the benefit of the doubt.
Normally Owen Sheehan sits in that seat, and he's like, Kerry, actually I think they're the second best team in the country. What do you think? Like, what's the truth about, what's an honest broker's opinion on where this Kerry team are at the moment?
Kerry have an awful lot of meshing to do on the hoof. So they have, like, they use 37 players in the league. At one stage we were looking at 17 injuries or absentees for one reason or another. Now they're all coming back. James O'Donoghue's coming back, Kieran Donaghy's coming back, Killian Young. All these guys have to be, David Moran came back towards the end of the league, but all these guys have to be meshed in with the new fellas who are coming in, and they won't have played a competitive match together, a lot of them. In that, the 15 that starts against Clare I'd be playing with each other for the first time in a competitive game, I would say. In
a way, the Super 8s suits that, though, that, like, you'll use a bunch of players.
It's a fairly rarefied atmosphere to be learning your trade, isn't it? Like the Super 8s, because that's going to be hot and heavy right from the start. So look, there's loads of talent there. It's just a matter of finding the right mix, and if they can sort themselves out defensively as well, which Mikey Sheehy's in today's paper.
Yeah, what's the issue with the defence? Explain this to us.
Well, I was down in the Galway game down in Tralee, I think that one was, during the league, and they just have left themselves really open. So really vulnerable when teams were running at them. In Galway, I think they scored 1 that day and probably could have scored 4 from memory. So you know, I think they conceded 10 goals in the top flight. The only team that didn't concede a goal against was your beloved Kildare, who themselves didn't pick up so much as a point in Division 1. So yeah, there are issues there, but I do think that will improve naturally when you have your best team out.
Yeah.
So, and not so many. Eamon Fitzmaurice again was talking about today, saying like it wasn't ideal to throw all these young guys in together. So I think when you have your best team out, that will tighten up naturally. But there is definitely issues there. Definitely issues there for Kerry.
Is this the type of thing that it takes 14, 16, 18 months to fix it? So next summer they know which of those 37 players that they use in the league this year, which 23 are the 23 that they want on any given day. Yeah, you definitely think they're going to be stronger this time next year, just for the year's experience, and assuming they get to the Super 8, you're right, that will bring them on a lot. Whether they're ready to go and beat Dublin this year, which is what someone's going to have to do if they're going to throw. I don't think anyone. There's probably Mayo and Kerry, maybe. I give Galway a shot as well, actually. I really like the way Galway are moving, but Dublin are a little bit ahead of everyone at the minute for me. Just to stick with Kerry for one last bit before we talk to Colm Cooper and James O'Donoghue, like if you were to pick their first choice 15 at the moment, there's probably only 2 or 3 of the younger lads who are in that. You know, it's assuming fitness, and it's probably wrong to assume fitness because you don't really get all your players fit at the same time. But if they're to come through, let's bring them through the Super 8s and. They survived that, but there's only 3 or 4 young lads who actually make the starting 15. At that point, it looks like a seasoned team, battle-hardened, who've come through the Super 8s to an All-Ireland semi-final. And I think at that point, you're starting to go, Hang on a second here now. There's something special about this.
Yeah, well, I was actually looking at it yesterday. Like, the last 3 years, they've been beaten in a final, a semi-final replay, and a semi-final. And 2 of them have been against Dublin. And
yet they're in crisis and miles off.
Well, I don't think anyone said they're in crisis, but there is a big change coming there. And it's how that change goes for them. I think Kerry have accepted, but to give Amos Fitzmaurice a long-term deal, I think they've accepted that this needs a little bit of time. But they're not known for their patience down there, are they? So I think they'll be right in the shake-up. But being in the shake-up and winning the thing are two very different things.
All right. Earlier this week, AIB announced a 5-year extension to their GAA sponsorship of backing club and county. The extension includes the AIB Club Championships, the AIB Camogie Club Championships and the AIB All-Ireland Football Championships. Colm Cooper and James O'Donoghue were along with them, and we sat the two lads down for a corner forward masterclass. Enjoy. All right. I'm delighted to say we've got James O'Donoghue and Colm Cooper here with us. Lads, how you doing?
Very good.
Welcome to our humble abode.
Very nice.
Thanks very much. Things aren't bad, are they?
Lovely.
We're going to talk. You were particularly interested in the Rocky.
I'm a big Rocky fan.
Are you?
No. Big figurine fan, all right though. Yeah.
Seriously?
You should get GAA players there. Look.
Are we getting some GAA figurines? That's we found a gap in the market. One of the things that we do sometimes is get people to talk about their positions and what it's like. So, what did you learn from him as a corner forward? Did you learn anything from him?
I did. I think I probably learned more from Colm when he went outside and I was inside, because a lot of inside forwards play is kind of how you've built up a relationship with the person who's going to be feeding it to you, do you know? Because you're completely almost dependent on someone else when you're playing in the inside line, at times anyway. So it's all about how you're kind of on the same wavelength as someone else, especially if they can dictate it. It can make your life so much easier. You know, the better they are, the easier it is for you. And you know, you talk about making runs and doing this and doing that. Sometimes, if the outside player is so good, you don't even have to nearly move. You know, it's just one step to the side, 2 steps the other way, and you're free if the outside player is on the same wavelength as you. So, I kind of learned a lot of that with Colm, really. As opposed to, I never really played with you, 2 of us in the full forward line.
No, I don't think we did. It was 2013.
13, yeah.
I went to 11, yeah. And then I got injured the second year, so we didn't have that much time either.
Yeah, it was
but any forward play, I think it's chemistry.
Definitely.
Chemistry. You'll have it with some guys, you'll find it'll take longer to find with some other guys, and then you might have any with some people. Yeah, and you learn each other's strengths and weaknesses and things like that as well. So
a lot of it's about definitely between an outside player and an inside player. It's once you catch eyes, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like if you can catch eyes at any moment, you can almost tell the other fella what to do.
Yeah.
Do you know, like you talk about communication and saying things to each other. Literally, if one fella lifts his eyebrows at you, you know what's on, you know. So that you can't really buy that chemistry.
That has to be done within 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Because you don't have 5 seconds to point where you want the guy to go.
Yeah. And you can't talk to each other either in the big days anyway. Like,
no,
so
you can't. And that
has to be all that.
That's what separates the great players and great partnerships.
Sexton and Conor Murray, or I think it was Murray was talking about it just recently, about how he got into the World Cup team quite young, and there's a match where he decides to go down the blind side and he gets absolutely balled out of it by Sexton, and then after that they started looking each other in the eye to make sure how it goes, and now they just they know exactly, like in the France game to win the with the drop goal, it's like just a look, and they're like, okay, not on. The look back is obviously whatever their signal is, and suddenly the ball's hoofed out and it's over. It's like, how long does it take to get that? And do you have it? How many people do you need it with as an inside forward?
Well, you can have it to a T with 1, you know, and then you probably have a different type of chemistry with every fella. And some people, you know, you probably don't want to catch eyes with already, because you don't know what's going to go.
Who are those fellas, James? Who are those fellas?
You're blocking your face like that. But I think it doesn't take long to get it. Once you're both on the same wavelength, it's like that, and then it's just, it makes you feel so good. You just want to keep doing it. So it's almost addictive then.
It's funny because we would not have played any football together growing up because I was older than James. So it's not like that we were playing year after year with each other, or as underage or minor or under 21 teams. So I just think probably the fact that we were both corner forwards, we had an understanding.
Yeah.
mentally of where I want to get the ball, where I'm in real danger, and invariably the other player can find that pass and find things. So,
did you have conversations about that sort of stuff?
I don't think we did.
Not really, no. Well, definitely none that would have had that much of an impact.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Generally in Kerry, and it might kind of sound surprising, Kerry don't do a whole pile of offensive, tactical play. It's a lot it's maybe unfair to say it's off the cuff stuff, but they don't want to fill your mind with too much detail because they want creativity, they want imagination. So, like, I work with Paddy O'Shea, Ian Fitzmaurice, Jack O'Connor, Pat O'Shea. None of them overly focused on the actual tactics of playing attacking football, which was surprising.
Would you like them to in respect at some stage?
I think it suited me.
Okay.
Because I'm a player who 90% of the time plays on instinct anyway. Where I am, what I can see, this is the right time to go for goal.
Yeah.
Where if it was too prescriptive, I'm not too sure I would flourish in that sort of environment.
Were there teammates at any stage who you would have had a chat to, like when you're breaking into the Kerry team?
You would. Like I came in, there was very experienced players. Like in the forward line that time, you had Liam Hassett, Johnny Crowley, Darragh O'Canada. They were all all-star winners, multiple All-Ireland winners.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing for me coming into the team was just to fit in.
Were you a corner forward at that point? Or did
I was corner forward all my career, really.
Like you were never a full forward, even underage, kind of?
No, I was too small.
Right.
Yeah. So I never, I never had size. So 13, all I'd say pretty much all during my career. So I just needed to fit in and find my way. I
often find the magic happens as a forward when you're completely out of position. Do you know what I mean? You might be playing at 13 and suddenly you end up maybe in the top of the D or maybe a bit towards the other side and you find yourself in a new position that just sparks something in you. Do you know what I mean? Whereas if you have to go back to start in the same position over in the corner, the defender knows what you're going to do, you know what you're going to do. It's just two staged, you know. So often it's like just the looseness of it can be the most dangerous part of it. For some people, I find that.
That's very interesting. So basically you can apply that to you when you move out to 11, that it's not almost playing deeper down the pitch, it's actually just playing in a more central position because your man marker doesn't know which direction you're going to go.
That's it, and it just gave me more opportunity to do things. Like I found, especially 2013 was my first year playing there, so I had to learn the position because I hadn't played a whole pile of football there. But what I learned very quickly was guys weren't sure whether to get tight or drop off and fill space. And sometimes which worked to my benefit was that they did neither. Yeah. They weren't really tight and they weren't blocking space. So I was able to just find passes inside to Donaghy, to James, to different guys. And there's learning. There's learning it the whole time. I think even I was learning until I'm still learning playing football. So and if you're playing instinct and those type of things, you'll invariably find the right thing to do, I think.
You mentioned it's magical not being in that corner position, or that's where the real magic happens. I presume that's not what you were thinking in the 2014 All-Ireland final. It was kind of a little bit more rudimentary than that. It was a little bit more like, right, I've got a job to do here.
Well, that was different. That was more of a tactical plan or whatever, just to kind of move out and hit them aerially. That was fine. I actually enjoyed that because it was kind of a bit of freedom, because it was very tough that year to get possessions inside in the Donegal full back line. Like, you know, the only way to really get it was up high, you know, and that was Paul Gainey's strength and Donaghy's strength, so it kind of worked in our favour that day.
Within the first minute or two.
Yeah. Well, that was actually just, it was planned, but so calmly. It was like, do you know what we'll do actually in the first play? You go there and we'll just see. And we didn't actually do it, but Stephen O'Brien went for a shot and it got blocked down, and it ended up happening.
It's half blocked.
Exactly how we said it, but completely by accident. And then we were on the way. So, you know, in the full forward line, a lot of it is actually wrestling, do you know, because you're there, right? If you're playing in the corner, you've got a sideline, you've got an end line. If the linesman is up the field, who's protecting you? Like the umpire? So you're kind of getting stuck in your man's getting stuck in you. And he's got two defenders. He's got the end line and the sideline. Do you know? So a lot of it is kind of just grappling and trying to get free for a second or two at a time. So it's...
Like they say, for midfielders, the most difficult thing is getting your jumping position. Like there's real elbows, sharp elbows going there. Probably same for the forwards. Like you know where you want to go. The back probably knows where you want to go. So you have to fight it out to see who's going to come out on top.
That's exactly what I mean then about the magic happens when you're not where you're supposed to be, because he doesn't know then where you want to go. You know? And suddenly the ball, you just kind of give a little push and you're kind of backtracking and you're in on goal or something. You know, it's an unnatural kind of
the most successful players, you don't know what they're going to do next. They don't do the same thing all the time. So that gives you a massive edge if you have that capability.
So it makes no sense to have your most creative player in the full forward line, because as you say, you are guarded by 2 boundaries there in the corner, whereas if you're playing at 11, you're not kind of regimented by what's happening by the dimensions of the pitch.
Yeah, but the problem is with playing 11 sometimes is that you actually get all your possessions a little bit further out, that you can't do as much damage, whereas if you can get 1 or 2 possessions inside where the magic happens inside, it's a 3-pointer possibly, like, you know. But if you can have a fella on 11, 13 and 15, like, earn the money.
That would help.
It helps when you have that spread of quality,
We had Michael Quinlivan in just before the championship started, and he was talking about how a lot of forwards these days don't go for goal, even though they have the opportunity to. That, like, you know, he just thinks that the footballers who tap it over the crossbar from the 14 are like, what are you doing? Even from the 21, it's like, stick your head down and go for it there. Come on. Goals change matches and everybody gets excited about them. That was certainly his attitude to it. I imagine you feel something similar?
Yeah, 100%, definitely. But there definitely is, if you put your team hat on, there is the time when you just have to. Like some teams, you see, I actually see it from Dr. Crooks and Killarney, right? If they have a chance and they miss it, you know, then the chance is probably gone and it's good to fist your point. If you kind of miss your goal chance and then 3 fellas line up to kick the next one,
well,
you know, and that you can just be overdoing it. So there is a time.
He means the one-on-ones. Stick your head down and go for it. And there's a one-on-one, go for it. Skin to the last defender.
Yeah, you have to go for it.
Goals are the crucial scores and they can turn matches. So I think certainly during my playing career and even still playing now with Crooks, we probably overkill it sometimes, you know, but
a goal is
more than 3 points. Yeah. It's a knockout blow.
Yes. So that's exactly what he said. A goal is more than 3 points.
Yeah, it is.
What's your favourite goal?
Of mine?
Yeah.
The 04 final, I think, against Mayo.
Because it kills the game?
It does, I think. We were on top, and I think I don't know what, we were up a couple of points. We were just taking over, and that was a knockout blow for Mayo. I think they knew there was no way back from there, and we knew that we were able to kick on from here, like, so. Just
explain the goal to us, will you? What happens?
Eamon Fitzmaurice was playing that day. He was centre back. He hoofed a ball in high. I wouldn't say it was the most cultured pass he ever made in his life. I'm sure I'll hear about that one, but yeah, so I just we had a tactic that day, and like again, a tactic going into game, it was just to put the ball in high, because I think Dermot Garrett, he was there from Mayo, cornerback. They weren't. We just felt that that was an area we could exploit. I think Gary Moran was there. I'm not even quite sure, but I just caught it and I took off. It opened up, and I was just able to bounce inside. I was able to visualise something
before it happened.
Yes, yeah. I said I knew going up I was going to catch it, and I just knew if I just got down quickly and landed, I knew it was going to be a second. I think it was actually Pat Kelly from Mayo who I was marking at the time. I was gone. I said, this is goal chance, definitely. Worst case scenario, someone comes across and I have to put it over the bar. But it opened, and I knew exactly where I wanted to place it, maybe 2 or 3 seconds before I took the shot.
That must feel pretty sweet, seeing the future.
Well, knowing what you want to do, but you know, that's why you put in all the work and things, so.
You could have blasted that as well.
Yeah.
You could have put the head down to blast with the left and you just tipped it in with the right. Your man, the goalie.
I always say to kids, like, I ask them a question, what do most players do when they go one-on-one with the goalie?
Smash it. Yeah.
The harder you try and kick a football, the less control you have on it. It's like a golfer. If you swing mad, like there's in golf they say, when it's breezy, swing easy. Like, you know, same in football. Same thing applies. If you're controlled, like I would say, all the goals I scored for Kerry, I'd say I placed 90% of them into corners or into different areas. So. It's just having a little bit of composure, isn't it?
Yeah. What's your favourite goal?
I don't have as much of a selection.
Yes.
My favourite goal, I'd say, was against Galway in 14. I just got a ball. I got a nice, easy hand pass off Johnny Buckley in close to goal. I'd say I was around 21. And I just turned, and the defender had just taken a step back, and I knew that if I could go around him. Because he just got his position wrong. I'd say he thought I was going to hook it over the bar. So when I turned, he kind of had his hips the wrong way. So I could just go inside him, and it opened up. And I actually did blast it. It was on my right leg, so I kind of put the head down and just went for the near post. I'd say if I placed it, he would have saved it. So I just rattled it as hard as I could. It was on my weaker leg, so luckily it went.
When you blast and it goes in, it looks more spectacular.
Of course, yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I'd rather place her though. John, you definitely is more control it, like, yeah.
We actually wanted to talk a little bit about 2014 and the Player of the Year award that year, because we had Austin Gleeson in studio recently chatting about his Player of the Year award 2 years ago, and I think we can actually bring the video of that here right now. This is Austin chatting to Joe on the show a couple of weeks ago.
Looking back on it, I shouldn't have been doing that. The whole year just bypassed them because I was doing that, and it was a stupidity mindset out of my own thoughts, like, and I don't know why I done it.
It's understandable.
I suppose it was just there was so much around the awards. He shouldn't have got it. He should have got it. Different things like that.
So you obviously read stuff. So people were saying you shouldn't have got it, were they? I didn't notice that. I didn't see any of that.
There was a kind of, but it wasn't me kind of reading it. It was more so, again, the people on the street saying, "Oh, do you hear what this fella said? Do you hear what that fella said?" And I'm saying, I'm kind of standing there. I don't really want to know, but go on, like.
So did you hear what Pundit X said?
Yeah.
And they tell you on the street?
Basically.
Okay.
Yeah. And
that sows the seed in your head. You're thinking, oh, there's people out there saying.
Yeah, basically. And then I wanted to prove a point then, basically, the following year that I wanted to prove a point that I believed that I was good that year.
Yeah.
That maybe it deserved the awards that year or whatever, like, but it just didn't happen no matter what I tried. Just didn't come off for me.
Were you not enjoying it? Would you go that far?
I wouldn't say I wasn't enjoying it. It was more so I was what's the word? I was enjoying I was enjoying playing, I was enjoying going training, but the second one thing went wrong, I was zoned out of a game for 5 minutes. And I couldn't get back into the game because I was thinking, if I missed a catch, why did I miss that catch? I probably would have made it last year. So I was thinking back on previous instead of just looking forward.
And does the pundit flash across your mind saying, oh, he's going to clock
They're going to pick that out, they're going to pick this out. Yeah, it does, like, be fair, but...
That's obviously kind of a tad different given that what happened around Gleeson having not won the All-Ireland, whereas in 2014 the reason why we wanted to bring this up was you'd won the All-Ireland and you were without question the deserving player of the year that year. I think most people will say, I don't think you had too many people coming up to you that winter saying you didn't deserve to win All-Star Footballer of the Year. That would have been some stretch. Basically the pressure of the award, I mean, it's something that a lot of players will say it doesn't matter, it's all about the All-Ireland medals and stuff like that, but it does matter, especially when you've won it. And did you feel in the wake of being All-Star Footballer of the Year that it weighed heavily on you?
It's a strange one, things, but I suppose we were reigning champions, so we had the kind of trying to get to be something again, we're trying to retain. We had this aura. I think we were kind of in a good place at the time. Personally, I went for surgery so I missed the whole National League, and I was fighting for fitness anyway, so I didn't really have a lot of the pressure of it. I was kind of trying to get back into the team, and I was kind of in a different place to Austin there, but I didn't think of it too much. But I do remember being sheltered because we had this feeling amongst the team that we were going somewhere, and we all felt on top of the world. It didn't matter what the Player of the Year award or who it went to. We all felt so good about it that I was sheltered by that, I think.
I know that for some of the Kilkenny hurlers, when they were at their absolute peak, one of the motivations was, there was talk in the dressing room about who was going to be their hurler of the year at various performances for the team.
I never noticed it. It did.